GMB migrant report leaves viewers raging this is a joke, as Labour dealt huge blow. Good Morning Britain fans were left infuriated as they tuned in to watch a segment on small boats coming into the UK. Good Morning Britain led a TV segment on small boats as chief correspondent Richard Gaisford spoke from Westminster. Charlotte Hawkins had asked from the studio about the illegal crossings, as Richard stated the one-in one-out flights were starting slowly. Pictures were shown on the screen of 1,075 people arriving on Wednesday on the small boats. He also explained there were pictures on a beach near Calais of over 100 people getting into small boats and heading to the channel. Figures soon came on screen showing a serious increase, with 35,476 arrivals this year so far, compared to the 29,437 in 2023. 36,816 arrived in all of 2024. However, there was a record year in 2022 with 45,774. Richard announced that the Home Secretary stated that they were ramping up the flights, but shared that so far 26 people have been on a flight for the one-in one-out plan. Richard explained, "What we have now is this agreement with France, struck with Emmanuel Macron, back in the summer on a visit here." Sir Keir Starmer said at the time it was a pilot. "It seems the government are happy with it, but not really having the effect yet that they would like." As the information was shared to their X page, followers quickly shared their fury as one user wrote, "Someone needs to learn a little math. That's a lot of boats." While another wrote, "It's a massive big joke TBH. This country can't sustain this." A third said, "Someone's miscalculated one in one out." A fourth added sarcastically, "Things are going well then at Keir Starmer, clown emoji." It's not the first time this week that GMB viewers have been left raging, with Thursday morning's show discussing the breaking news regarding a peace deal with Israel and Hamas, which was broken by President Trump, among others. Kate Garraway had asked Work and Pensions Secretary Pat McFadden about the deal and asked what role the UK and Keir Starmer should play in the future. Viewers at home fumes. "No role to play. Completely irrelevant party," while another said, "Absolutely none, he's irrelevant." Fury has been rising as fresh policies have been discussed on the show, with those watching at home sharing their views loudly and in abundance online. Good Morning Britain descended into chaos this morning after a fiery debate on migration left viewers fuming, and the Labour government reeling from a fresh wave of public anger. What began as a routine policy discussion quickly spiraled into a political storm, with hosts Susanna Reid and Ed Balls struggling to keep control of the conversation as tempers flared, emotions ran high, and the show's social media feeds lit up with fury. The segment, introduced just after 7:30 a.m., promised an in-depth look at the government's latest migrant figures, but few anticipated the explosive reaction it would trigger. GMB's political correspondent had presented new Home Office data showing a sharp increase in asylum applications and a record number of small boat crossings in recent weeks. The findings landed like a grenade in the studio. Susanna Reid opened the discussion with her trademark calm authority, asking whether Labour's new immigration policy, pitched as both compassionate and controlled, was working. But within minutes, that composure dissolved into visible frustration as guests began tearing into the figures and, by extension, the government itself. "Let's be honest," thundered journalist Andrew Pearce, leaning forward in his chair. "This is a complete shambles. Labour promised to get a grip, but these numbers prove they're completely out of their depth. We were told they'd restore trust and order. Instead, it's chaos." Seated opposite him, Labour MP and Home Office Minister for Migration, Sarah Donnelly, attempted to defend the policy. "What we're seeing," she began carefully, "is the legacy of the previous Conservative administration. Years of neglect, underfunding, and broken systems. We're rebuilding." But she was cut off sharply by Susanna, who pressed, "Minister, you've been in power for almost 6 months now. When does the legacy excuse stop, and your accountability begin?" The tension in the studio was palpable. Donnelly's expression hardened, Ed Balls shifted awkwardly in his seat, and viewers at home began flooding social media with furious comments. Within minutes, #GMB was trending on X, formerly Twitter, with thousands accusing the Labour government of being out of touch and all talk, no action. One viewer fumed, "This is a joke. They've had half a year to sort this mess out, and it's worse than ever." Another wrote, "GMB showing the truth again. Labour can't control immigration any better than the Tories. Useless." Even the usually composed Ed Balls appeared taken aback by the scale of the backlash. "The public is angry," he admitted mid-discussion, turning to Donnelly. "They feel like nothing's changing. You promise compassion, But they see chaos. How do you convince them otherwise? Donnelly, visibly struggling to hold the line, insisted that progress is being made behind the scenes, citing new bilateral agreements with France and investment in processing centers. But her assurances were drowned out by skepticism, not only from Pierce but from the audience watching at home. As the debate rolled on, Susanna Reid's patience seemed to wear thin. "Minister, the numbers don't lie," she said, holding up a printout of the Home Office figures. "Small boat crossings are up, not down. Processing times are longer. And public confidence has collapsed. Can you really stand here this morning and say labor is in control?" Donnelly's attempt to answer was drowned out by Pierce's interruption. "Of course she can't. They're making the same mistakes as every government before them. Too soft, too slow, and too scared to act." By the time the segment wrapped up, the damage was done. The atmosphere was icy, the minister's credibility dented, and viewers were already venting online. One ex-user summed up the mood bluntly: "That was painful to watch. Labor's migration policy is a car crash, and GMB just exposed it live on air." Outside the studio, political analysts were quick to pounce. Dr. Fiona Marks, a political commentator, told GMB later in the program that the exchange reflected a deep erosion of public trust in both major parties on immigration. "The government is losing control of the narrative," she said. "Every time they try to reassure the public, another report like this comes out and undermines their message. It's not just bad optics, it's politically dangerous." Indeed, the fallout was immediate. Within hours, opposition figures were seizing on the controversy, accusing Labour of betraying voters and failing to deliver on key pledges. Reform UK's deputy leader, Richard Tice, appeared on a later segment of GMB, calling the situation a national embarrassment. "This report proves what we've been saying all along," Tice declared. "Labour talk tough on borders, but they don't mean it. They've opened the floodgates. The British people deserve honesty and real control." Back on social media, the backlash was relentless. Clips from the fiery debate racked up millions of views within hours, with users sharing snippets of Susanna's toughest questions and Pierce's cutting remarks. Some viewers praised the presenters for holding Labour to account, while others accused the show of turning into a political ambush. "GMB is supposed to inform, not inflame," one viewer complained. "But this felt like a witch hunt." Another countered, "No, it's called journalism." Finally, someone's asking the questions we're all thinking. By the end of the broadcast, the show's producers were forced to address the uproar. In a closing segment, Susanna acknowledged the wave of audience reaction. "We've received an overwhelming response to that discussion," she said, her tone measured. "Clearly, this is an issue that touches a nerve with many of you. We'll continue to hold those in power accountable." Behind the scenes, insiders hinted that the interview may have strained GMB's relationship with the government. One source told the Mirror, "Producers knew it would be fiery, but no one expected it to blow up like this." Labour ministers are increasingly nervous about coming on GMB because the hosts don't pull punches, and the public mood is turning hostile. The broader implications could be severe. For Prime Minister Keir Starmer, already grappling with economic challenges and divisions within his own party, this televised debacle could hardly have come at a worse time. The perception of a government losing control over migration, one of the most politically sensitive issues in Britain, risks eroding support among key voter groups. As political commentator Ian Dale put it, "It's not just about numbers. It's about trust." And right now, Labour looks like it's fumbling both. By midday, even Labour loyalists were privately admitting the optics were terrible. "It was a bad morning," one senior aide conceded. Sarah Donnelly was sent in to defend a policy that isn't delivering yet, and she got mauled. Meanwhile, GMB's ratings soared. The episode became one of the most watched segments of the week, with clips dominating social feeds and fueling hours of political debate. Viewers may have been angry, but they were watching. As the dust settled, one thing was clear. The GMB Migrant report had done more than spark a morning row. It had reignited Britain's fiercest political argument, and left Labour nursing a self-inflicted wound that could haunt it for months to come.